Why attack Canada? For God's sake,
I think
it's
you
about
make a
Western
fair point. It's just hard to see why, and I'm not vouching for Putin's character, which he seems like a shady guy, a strong man for sure, wouldn't want to live there.
He's a killer.
Hard to see why he's a threat to us. And how many wars can we fight at once? How many people can we be in opposition to at once? Why not just accept that people who are bad people share our interests and side with them?
You sound like Charles Lindbergh in 1938 saying, Hitler hasn't attacked us.
I beg your pardon? Slow down. Hey, slow down, Colonel. I'm not in any way. You cannot compare me to someone who would make apologies for Hitler. And I don't think Putin is comparable to Hitler.
I think Putin is. Look,
I think it's a grotesque overstatement.
Putin is, well, I think
it's insane.
Putin, fine. You can think it's insane all you want.
You just compared me to a Nazi apologist because I asked a simple question, which is, slow down, why does it contravene American interests in a common cause with a group that's trying to kill ISIS?
Invaded his neighbors, broken the long peace in Europe. He assassinates dissidents and journalists. He bombs women and children on purpose in Syria. He is as bad as Hitler. And I'm sorry, if you don't like the Charles Lindbergh thing, I will retract that. But let's just say you sound like someone in the 1938 saying, what's Hitler done to us? Putin is the equivalent of Hitler.
I would hate to go back and read your columns assuring America that taking out Saddam Hussein will make the region calmer, more peaceful, and America safer, when in fact it has done exactly the opposite, and it has empowered Russia and Iran, the two countries you say you fear most. Let's just be totally honest here. Yeah. We don't always know the outcomes.
Right.
They're not entirely predictable. And so maybe we should lower the moral tone a little bit.
Okay, well,
rather than calling people accommodationists and say, we're not exactly sure what's going to happen. We can only make good decisions day by day.
You made your career being an American conservative patriot. And now you're suddenly cheering for Vladimir Putin?
I'm not in any sense cheering for Vladimir Putin.
Well, you said
and it's not accommodation. I'm cheering for America as always. Our interests ought to come first. And to the extent that making temporary alliances with other countries serve our interests, I'm in favor of that. Making sweeping moral claims, grotesque ones, comparing people to Hitler, advances the ball not 1 inch.
Vladimir
it blinds us to reality.
He hates America. He wants to hurt us. And I'm sorry, all this, suddenly Vladimir Putin's a good guy. Russia's okay. No, it's not. Russia is evil.
So what's your moral test? So we cannot in any way do business or make common cause with a country whose leader is, quote, evil, who is, quote, a bad person. That takes most of the world off the table. Most countries are run by really bad people. That's not the question.
You're not talking about dealing with them. You're talking about an alliance, an anti-terror alliance. Come on, that's very different.
First step, cheering on any attacks made by Russia against our mortal enemy, our real enemy, ISIS. Why not just say, that's great, I don't like Putin, I'm not living in Russia, I'm not taking money from the guy, but like, a good deed is a good deed no matter who commits it. Why not just say that?
Putin isn't killing ISIS primarily, he's attacking the anti-Assad people while letting us fight ISIS.
And are you convinced, and do you speak Arabic, by the way?
No, I don't.
Oh, you don't? Okay, so...
How's your Russian?
It's non-existent. Okay. And I would never claim to be a Russia expert. But I'm not sitting here talking about groups about whom I know very little, and I bet you're in that category, in Syria, and saying they're freedom fighters, they're serving the interest of freedom or democracy or American interests, when in fact, a lot of these groups, we know very little about them. And some of them are truly bad people who don't have our interest at heart.
And we're not backing the truly bad people. And how about Assad?
Well, how do we know that?
Is Assad a good guy? Do you think?
I don't know. I mean, ask the Christians and Jews who lived in Syria.
If we align,
he protected.
If we align with Russia, we are aligning with Iran. We are aligning with Assad.
And that's bad for American interests because why?
Do you think Iran is good for American interests?
I think Iran's a bad country and in a lot of ways against American interests. But within the context of Syria, Assad was much better for America than the people I believe you hope to replace him with.
The Kurds? How about the Kurds?
So the Kurds are going to run Syria?
No.
Now we're in fantasy land.
No, they're going to have an independent state.
You're going to break up Syria into lots of little countries.
Well, I'm not going to break it up.
Okay, but that's the plan because it works so well in Iraq?
Yeah. Well, it hasn't broken up yet. And the problem with Iraq was in 2003 when we had the chance, we didn't break it up.
We didn't break it up. Last question. Would you, knowing what you know now, and I hate to revisit this, but since you brought it up, knowing what you know now, that the deposing Saddam, his subsequent death, empowered Iran dramatically, and in fact we explicitly helped Iran gain traction in Iraq. Do you think that was a wise idea? And do you think there are any lessons going forward in Syria that maybe when you take out a secular leader, the vacuum is filled by even worse people?
Well, I think that is a valid point you can make.
Yes, it
often happens. But in 2003, we did a great thing inexcusably badly. Rumsfeld killing the MP brigades. There are a lot of reasons for it. We believed any Iraqi emigre who spoke English with an Oxford accent and wore a well-tailored suit I mean, again, our intentions were great, but if I had it to do over again, no, I would not get rid of Saddam Hussein because we hadn't thought it through. My mistake.
But you're confident that we've thought through what comes after Assad, who's run the country for decades, pretty peacefully, actually?
I think killing 500,000 of your own people probably doesn't mean you should remain in charge. Now,
after the civil war, I'm not making apologies for Bashar al-Assad. I'm merely saying that happened after.
It sounds like you're sitting here and making apologies for him.
So because I'm asking rational questions about what's best for America, I'm a friend to strongmen and dictators. No, that is a conversation stopper, not a beginning of a rational conversation.
No, this is not
My only point is that when Syria was run by Assad, 10% of the population was Christian, and they lived in relative peace, considering they lived in the middle of the Levant.
That is absolutely true, and it's also true.
And so what's happened to those people now?
His father killed 30,000 or more people. Well, what's happened? Now, let's be fair. I mean, Barack Obama